Hello and welcome to a KSP video. I believe this is the first one with commentary. Um, the last one I did, the Eve mission, I believe, that one was gonna have commentary, but it would have been an hour long. And yeah, I just took out all the commentary and spit it up. Anyway, so today we're gonna be flying the space shuttle. Now, this is it's not my design, obviously, it's NASA's, but I recreated it in KSP, and one thing people may point out here is some of these parts don't look correct. Like, in game, these are not actually this big. I use the scale mod in order to get them to be big enough to get the shuttle into space. And, well, that's the only way I could do it. Apart from keeping the color and using the other tanks, that was the only way I can actually get it to work. But, anyway, we have a mech jib on board, and basically I have multiple different shuttles, and they all have this timer system for the boosters that basically tell the boosters when to separate from the rocket. And basically I will leave a download link for this rocket in the description, and if you get mech jib with this, make sure you set it to 75 seconds. That'll make sure you get the most power out of the boosters before they separate. They actually go off here for, you see 0.9 seconds. That 0.9 will allow it to fly away from the rocket without hitting it and destroying it. So, just, yeah. Launching. T-minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I designed this space shuttle here to allow the engines to run at maximum speed throughout the entire journey. Basically, they have a super high gimbal range, so one engine points mostly at the center of weight, kind of above it, and while the top engine here points the rest of the center of thrust directly at the center of mass. So, as we go up into the atmosphere here, we're going to start leaning the craft back. When the space shuttle was being launched, it launched at like a sideways angle, this way, instead of the angle here, and then it rolled over this way, like what I have here, and pitched back. One of these space shuttles would drain, back in the day, an average size swimming pool in 20 seconds, or 25 seconds. See, they detach and fly away. And those are the boosters gone, so now we don't need this anymore. This tells our delta V, so we can get into orbit. Every adjustment we make changes the amount of delta V, so we can't tell how much we have until after we get out of the atmosphere. For sure, we can't tell how much we have because of drag. Anyway, now once we get this up to a height of 70 meters, 70 kilometers, we'll roll over, and in the real space shuttle, that would have, the reason they would roll over is for better communications with NASA's Kennedy Space Center. So, we're gonna roll over soon. And see, these tanks still have a lot of fuel in them, so that's something I could work around, so when I get rid of the tank, they'll still have some fuel in it. And yeah, this shuttle took a long time to design, but it worked. Alright, we're gonna roll over this way, and also move the nav ball upward as we roll over. That way, because our thrust isn't exactly like, we're not going this way, we're going this way. And so, basically, we'll need to point in a slightly above in the nav ball from where we actually are. But I have counted for that once we detach the main booster there. So now we're just gonna nose down in order to get more or less a circular orbit. And there. Then we'll just need to raise the front part, and we are go for booster separation, or not booster, fuel tank. And there we go, separated. Then we press action group number 2, and that shuts off these engines. Then we spacebar, and we get the monopropellant engines, and these get us all the way into orbit. Now, the real space shuttle actually used that orange tank to get completely into orbit, I believe, and then the monopropellant for like the rest of the maneuvers and maybe a bit into orbit, I believe. But we're just gonna use the monopropellant for the entire adjustment because it makes things easier. Now what we're gonna do is make our periapsis, the lowest point of our orbit, to about 100 kilometers, because that is where our, actually 120, because that is where our space station that I have designed, that's where it's at, is about 122 and 130 kilometer orbit. So yeah, now that we're in orbit, we need to, when you download this craft, it has 2 points of control. When you're flying into orbit, you control from the nose, but then once you're in orbit, you want to go in here and select this right here and control from there. That way, because the thrust on the monopropellant engines is right here, instead of like the control pod here thinks that the thrust is coming directly here, and it's not. So that just helps make sure that you're lined up when you're going into orbit. Now our payload here, which you'll see once I get rendezvoused with the space station, is pretty simple payload that will be docking onto the space station. Now, space station here is not the easiest design, but it has a lot of different rockets docked to it at the moment. And we just got the main crew here of Jeb, Bill, Bob, and Valentina. There. Now we're more or less in a somewhat circular orbit. Now we're gonna target the I've named it the KISS, or KISS station, because what the acronym stands for is Kerbal International Space Station. Even though that there is no actual international here, because there's no actual like known society, there's just the one space station, or not space, the one space center, and no actual like cities or anything at all. Technically, I guess you could call it an international space station. Anyway, we're going to want to adjust our orbit in order to get the closest possible approach to the space station. and sometimes when you're doing this maneuvering, you don't want to, every time you do this, you want to make sure you check what your apoapsis and periapsis levels are at, because if they're below 70, you'll fall, and you'll fall back in the atmosphere, and that won't be good. So just do the fine maneuvering as close as you can to the target if that ever happens. Now, yeah, it's just kind of tedious work getting the maneuvers correct, but once you do, it's pretty easy. I'm just gonna go for another orbit before I do a maneuver. Basically, what's gonna happen here is, my rocket that I'm traveling on is traveling at a slower speed than the ISS, and so basically that means I have to warp all the way around until we get the closest possible approach at all. Really, when you do this, you want to make sure that your space shuttle, or your space station, or whatever you want to dock to, is behind you when you're going into orbit, but mine just somehow got in front of me. I don't know. But you can always work around it. This here has a lot of electric charge left on it, so we're good to go. Alright, I'm just gonna deselect this. Or I guess I can just select the planet. And that makes it exponentially more difficult to figure out where it is. And I have built a gimme rocket. Basically that's just the that's our American rocket that we designed that got somebody into orbit. I might post a video about that, but I don't know. You have already done all these things a lot. Now in real life, they would have like calculated this a lot better than what I'm doing, and like got into orbit, or got a rendezvous with the first couple of orbits, instead of me doing like a day's worth of orbiting. Alright, it's coming up behind us. Alright, now we should be able to get a good rendezvous with it. How many days have we been up here now? Maybe 2 days? 1 or 2. Technically Kerbing days. We have been up here for 4. Oh, okay. That's fine. I don't have any mods for, like, food or anything, so. Unless you do, you want to plan this a little better, but I don't have anything. So, basically when you do this, just check what is your best approach on there. I got 2 pretty good ones, so, I'm just gonna go for the nearest because it's on the same plane, or same inclination. Now, yeah, just kind of adjust your orbit, do the maneuvers, make sure your periapsis is above the atmosphere, but technically it's not going to matter because it's behind here, and will accelerate to orbit to match the orbital speed of the rocket, or the space station. So technically it doesn't matter, but it's always helpful. Now we're pretty close. You don't need it to be perfect, but the closer you get, the better. Now we're just gonna check. See, our periapsis is in the orbit, but our target speed, if we check, that's 200, so we have enough delta V to slow down and then dock. what we need to do, and then go home. So that's good. But I guess we can go for like a further approach. This will give us a lot less delta V use, but we'll be about 4 kilometers apart. But it should be fine. Now you see the delta V is going down as we're moving our spacecraft. That's because the RCS here uses monopropellant as its fuel, just like these engines. So the more we move our craft, the less fuel we have. So yeah, makes things a little bit more difficult when you want to dock. But that's the best I can do with the space shuttle at the moment. Now I do have a mod for the space shuttle that basically makes it look better and more realistic. That's what I'll count out the parts. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4 parts on here that are from that mod. The nose cone, the belly of the craft here, and the mount for the engines, and then the wing thing, and this. So yeah. Now we're gonna perform that burn. And alright, that should be good. Let's check what our distance is. 7.5, alright, that's good. So, we're going to want to point retrograde in relation to our space station here in order to decelerate, well technically, in order to achieve the same orbit as the space station here. Now we're going to want to match our velocities here and completely decelerate, and then we'll switch to the control of the command pod here and dock. And we're almost matched. And we should be good. Just gonna accelerate towards the target. Alright, now we can control from here and use our RCS to propel us forward. Now, we're going to want to open up these things here. Hold on 1 second. There we go. Alright, so this is our payload. We have a tug here with a ton of monopropellant and monopropellant engines, and that's just gonna help us get into our orbit, or help us get into help us dock 2 spacecrafts together. Now, what we're gonna do, just gonna quick save this so I don't fail. Undock, switch to it, and we have full control, so we're gonna maneuver it out and set this as our target. We're gonna point towards that target. Make sure we keep an eye on this. Move towards it. Now, this craft, although it's not the best craft, like the crafted design, it's not great, but it's not terrible either. It's just kinda like this space shuttle. I've designed it as best I could, but yet there's still flaws. I've designed it to be as close as I can to the original NASA space shuttle, but again, I am limited to the stock and certain non-stock parts of the game here, but we're good enough. So now we should be able to just kind of time warp and get closer to the station here. So you'll get to see the first glimpse of my space station, and there's our shuttle there. Just kind of rotate our spacecraft towards the station and maneuver around until we start moving correctly towards here. Alright, so we are coming in at 21.4 meters per second. Now in real life, you would be, let's just see, the orbit speed here. In real life, this is 10 times smaller, technically. So in real life, it would be like, I believe, 10 times faster, considering this is a 10 times smaller planet with 10 times smaller rockets, so it makes it look like it's normal, even though it's still 10 times smaller. That's why the space shuttle has so much fuel left in it. 10 times smaller space shuttle, 10 times smaller, it makes it like 10 times harder to calculate the exact amount of fuel. But, whatever. Oh, we're gonna wanna stop our space shuttle there from flying away. Now that we stop this, we're gonna wanna stop the space shuttle. I'm just gonna pitch the nose up and use the rockets to burn back. Control from here. There, now we're going to be traveling towards the space station now, and we're going to want to slow down a lot. Now, just kind of bring the, you want to make sure that you're pointing this here, so we're just going to want to maneuver that down. What we can do is just point our rocket down and use the engines to maneuver our rocket towards the station here, and just kind of slow down to almost a complete stop. Kind of rotate our rocket around here. I like using the free cam here because it's just better in every way. Anyway, now, yeah, hard rocket to control, but once you get near your target and use the the RCS, just makes it a little easier to control. Alright, we should be good. I'm just gonna make sure we're floating towards the station instead of away. And we're gonna want to dock this onto the station. Now, you see this part here? That's what I docked originally to be part of the, it was part of the space shuttle that I used to dock the space shuttle. That's where we'll be docking our, space shuttle that we brought here. We'll be docking that onto here, onto that piece, because the docking ports are pretty close to the panels here, and these, like, I just can't reach them. So this basically extends it out and makes it a lot easier to not fail at hitting the solar panels and damaging my spacecraft. So, just gonna move in slowly, but very fine maneuvers. We're gonna want to slow down and make those last minute adjustments. Now, it does have engines on it, and that's because if we have any bigger craft we need to tug in, we can use the engines to tug our craft towards whatever. I only put them on one end, so if we were going to push something, we would need to dock here. If we were going to pull something, we would dock here. So, yeah. Pretty simple, but it should work for what I need to use it for. And basically, it's just RCS tanks. So, simple. And batteries. So we're just gonna dock here. Now, one reason I haven't been uploading videos, like, I just kind of stopped, is because it started being summer, and I wanted to enjoy that start, instead of, like, having every day be YouTube, so, just, getting back on that schedule now, so. Now, time to dock the shuttle. So, the only docking port that can be docked to is right here, just like the actual shuttle. They had a docking port around here in order to dock their shuttle to the space station. Now, when you're docking the shuttle, don't like control from here because it makes it more difficult to try and dock. Just control from here and kind of it's basically all visual. The nav ball doesn't really help that much, but it's pretty much all visual work. Yeah. When I'm doing this, I kind of just switch to either orbital or continue using the free cam. It just makes it a little easier movement and better camera angles so I can see the docking port better. But usually I just go into free mode here. Alright, we're coming up on the docking port. Gonna want to slow our vertical speed and start to move sideways here. Alright, so coming in here, increase our vertical speed and start to slow down. Basically just kind of stop and make sure we adjust ourselves before we come in for that final dock. Make sure we're aligned. Now, originally I had put the docking port too close to the cabin, so I couldn't dock. So when I got this piece up here, it was on that space shuttle, and basically what happened was I just kind of brought it back down, and I didn't leave this up here. I brought it with me, and so also you can tell there's one thing wrong with this. All it has is RCS, which means there is no extra battery except for this, and that's what happened to me when I was doing the when I was bringing this up. I ran out of battery power, so what I had to do was I made a Soyuz module, and I used that in order to transfer battery power to it, and I docked it. So it was a tedious process, but it worked in the end. And now my space station's going all crazy on me. So the only way to fix that, turn off SES and then try and redock. So yep, let's try it again. It's a tedious process, but once you get the hang of it, it just kind of becomes simple. So yeah. Turn off SAS and just kind of let the craft roll into place. And that will dock it to the space station here. Now, I've designed the space station to basically, it has engines on it, but I never designed it to leave Kerbin. And so, if it did, then basically what would happen is it wouldn't quite work out. Like, if I tried to go literally anywhere outside of Kerbin's sphere of influence, with this rocket, everything would bend back and just wouldn't work out correctly. So the only way to get this to go anywhere outside of Kerbin is to undock here and fly it away. Maybe dock a Soyuz module, I don't know, but it wouldn't be able to go anywhere. Anyway, basic space station, nuclear engines, fuel tanks, RCS. And it has enough battery power to last like a month without solar panels. And solar panels are all working, so that's good. We have the crew escape pod here for about 16, 19 Kerbals that can get in here and fly back down. But in the event that for some reason we don't have any monopropellant left, what we could do is dock the space shuttle to like I believe either one of these or one of these. Like put this in the cargo bay and fly back home. It would work then technically, but wouldn't be that good of a ride. Anyway, I'm just gonna switch over to another space shuttle that just is empty, so I can fly it back down. Because I'm planning on leaving this shuttle here, so we'll fly the space shuttle back down. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna switch the crew out. There's no free space on any of the docking. That's odd. It's not showing me any pictures of it's not showing me any like blue or not blue or red or whatever. It's not showing me any of those. Huh. Odd. But okay. Now what we're gonna do is just transfer from this cargo bay into here. And in real life they wouldn't do this because these people on the space station don't know how to fly the space shuttle, and so they would have the same people go back down, or have them go down into a different rocket that would be simpler to fly for them. Now we are gonna prepare to leave, and I'm not good at actually like getting the space shuttle to like land back at Kerbin or land back at the space center. So yeah. Anyway, now closing the hatch or the hangar cargo bay there. Closing the cargo bay. Untargeting the space station, controlling from here. And yeah. It's gonna point retrograde, and we're gonna I'll try to land back at Kerbin. Kerbin's right here, so I'm gonna see about coming back in for a landing. Not too steep of a deorbit though. So we should be good. That should be good. So we're just gonna point retrograde or to the maneuver, and we've already passed the maneuver. So I'm just gonna warp back here. We have a ton of electricity, so we're good. We are fine. Now, gonna perform the burn and go home. Now, I will be showing the air tank project part 2 pretty soon. That'll be sometime when our pool here in our town opens. I won't be giving a name of the pool or anything because it has our town name in it, and I'm not giving my town name to anybody. So, anyway, well, we already failed. So, right there's the KSC. Actually, no, right there is the KSC. And we're not gonna come in when the KSC is because we did a full orbit around, and yeah, we're just not gonna. We'll be able to land on land, but we won't be at the KSC. So, yeah. Anyway, I'll work on landing the space shuttle later, or landing it at the space center. Yeah, it's a difficult task, but once you get the hang of it, it just kind of becomes simpler. We have a very steep re-enter angle here, so yeah. Now the real space shuttle would have nosed back in order to skip kind of across the atmosphere, but if I tried to do that, it would flip over. So yeah. And since we're re-entering so steeply, everything's overheating. It doesn't matter if the RCS overheats, it's fine, but anything else, yeah, it wouldn't be good. So, doesn't look like it's gonna get too bad. We are getting out of the thick of it. There's the other shuttle I landed. That's got the docking payload, the one when I docked to the space station originally. But yeah, we should hopefully be able to land on here, somewhere around there. So we want to slow down as much as possible. Okay, we have re-entered the atmosphere. And we're going to turn off the RCS and wait for it to slow down enough in order for me to fly it down. Now, we have to land at a minimum of about 80 meters per second, and that's the minimum that this thing can even stay in the air for without stalling. So, yeah, it's pretty difficult to land. But, yeah. Anyway, now we're just gonna roll not that kind of roll. Yeah, it's not the best to be flying, but whatevs. Basically, just kind of turn off everything and just hope it. There we go. So we're flying backwards now. So basically, just kind of pull up backwards and then nose down, and that will turn the ship around. Now I'm just gonna hopefully glide back to land here. Around here. No, don't. Ugh, come on. I know there's probably some reason why it's doing this, but I don't know. Alright, I'm gonna turn SAS on. This will keep me from rolling over. Alright. Jeb, Bill, Bob, and Valentina are now in the space station while these guys are landing an ocean's worth away from the KSC, but hopefully still on land, so that'd be good. I haven't actually landed the space shuttle successfully, and not have the wings fly off, so let's see about landing it without it crashing. We have some extra 4 meters of delta V left, which isn't enough to actually speed us up much, but we might as well use it. The real shuttle would have never done that unless they it was a emergency and they had to get more speed or something, I don't know. Now we are about to stall, so I'm just gonna, the space shuttle would have, when it was coming in for landing, it would have had a steep dive and then would have pulled up before it came in for landing. So we're just gonna pull up, and we are stalling a bit, but we should be fine. Oh, the wings are gonna break off. We did it! Yes! Yes! First time ever actually didn't snap the wings off. Alright. Didn't even need to use the parachute too. There was a parachute in the back, so. Great. Alright. Well, total mission time was about, I don't know, 4 or 5 days. KSP days. So, yeah. Difficult launch, but it worked. We got the tug up there, and we landed successfully. Way over there. Way over there. If anybody can help me with, landing my space shuttle actually at the runway, that'd be great. So yeah. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll be posting the air tank video pretty soon. But tomorrow I'll be posting Subnautica. Or not tomorrow, 2 days from now I'll be posting Subnautica. But, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.